Hello, and thank you for reviewing the PS product demonstration for the integration of OpenForms 360 at AutoStore. Let's start with a quick submission of a document into a normal AutoStore workflow, and then we'll review that workflow while that's processing. It's a simple submit. This can be any of the AutoStore capture components, any of the MFDs, auto capture, scan from a scanner, any of that. And if we look at the individual configuration here, you'll notice then we have this OpenForms route component. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the document that's been submitted and we're going to pass that document off to OpenForms 360. OpenForms 360 will then process that document against the specified sitemap. This sitemap name can be an RRT to provide variability based on document type, vendor name, whatever. And then when it's passed to OpenForms, we can then control whether or not user intervention validation is required based on setting these validation usage parameters. We can never send a validation in those instances where validation happens in an external application. For example, if we're sending invoices to an Oracle application or an SAP application where the validation is actually going to happen along with business rules in that other application, we could say never send a validation and pass it on to them. We can always validate depending on how sensitive the data needs to be, or we can provide conditional validation, which allows us then for each individual document type and then individual elements within that document type, we can set OCR confidence parameters so that we can elevate more some fields to a more important category, reduce the relative importance of other fields so that we're not constantly selecting and correcting OCR text that's not critical to the business function. But we can set these values. These values will be then used to process when that document comes in. What happens when it goes to OpenForms 360, OpenForms runs what's called a sitemap. This is the sitemap designer, and you'll notice there's a number of modules over here on the right. We drag and drop those in and create a workflow much like auto capture works. There's a chain of elements. They process from one to the next. Each one is individually configured. If I select that and look at properties, you can see there's a series of properties for each one of these steps, and that changes as I pick each particular item in the workflow. We should have a document now. The last step out here implied is actually the validation step. If I've chosen to send something to validation or not, then it will show up in this validation element. I can open this. There's a series of fields then, right, and it'll prompt me for, and I can step through and check each one of these. When this has been validated to my satisfaction, I can click validate. There's nothing else, so it won't load the next one. And then finally, once that document has been returned, completed within OpenForms, it comes back into AutoStore workflow through a capture component. And if I look at that capture component, I have a similar sitemap. I can have any number of these sitemaps under here. And when the document comes back, not only do I get the document image back, but if I open this particular component for configuration, you will notice that I also get back each of the fields in the schema along with the state of the field, whether that field was evaluated as OK or not, and then the relative confidence of the OCR that as determined by the OCR engine. So then I can do advanced processing logic based on the relative confidence of the OCR value coming back. I'd like to thank you for your time today. If you require further information on the PS OpenForms auto capture or AutoStore integration, please you can download that from the PS catalog. You can reach out to your NSI regional sales point of contact and request a quotation for PS software and services. Thank you.